Alright, welcome to this Explainer. I am so thrilled you're tuning in today because we're looking at something that is absolutely fundamental, yet honestly, it gets overlooked all the time. We are going to literally explore the mechanical engineering behind your brain's daily performance. You see, the food you eat, it's not just some abstract concept of health. It is the actual physical architecture of your mind. It directly dictates how you feel, how you think, and how you operate on a daily basis. So get comfortable, because we're about to decode the actual recipe of your mind. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, I want you to start with a slightly gross but highly memorable thought experiment. Just imagine, just for a second, that you sucked all the moisture directly out of your brain, like if you took all the water away and broke the brain down to its sheer constituent nutritional content. What exactly would be sitting there in front of you? What is your brain actually made of? Well, what's really interesting to see here is the sheer dominance of that largest slice. Most of the weight of your dehydrated brain would actually come from fats, also known as lipids. I know, we often hear fat used as kind of a dirty word in nutrition, but up there in your head, it's the primary building block. In the rest of the brain matter, you'd find proteins and amino acids, followed by trace amounts of micronutrients, and finally a little bit of glucose. The brain is definitely more than just the sum of its nutritional parts, but each of these specific components has a highly distinct impact on your functioning, your development, your mood, and even your energy. So here is the strict daily menu our brain relies on to function. First, fats, our structural superstars. Second, proteins, the chemical messengers. Third, micronutrients, the brain protectors. Fourth, carbs, the brain's fuel. And finally, number 5, sustaining brain power. All right, let's dive right into the first ingredient on our menu, fats, these structural superstars. When we talk about fats in the brain, the absolute superstars are omegas 3 and 6. These are essential fatty acids, meaning your body can't just magically produce them out of thin air. They have to come directly from your diet. So eating omega-rich foods, think nuts, seeds, fatty fish, is absolutely crucial. They literally create and maintain your cell membranes, and they've even been linked to preventing degenerative brain conditions down the road. On the flip side, well, we have the villains of the story. Long-term consumption of other fats, like trans and saturated fats, can actually actively compromise your brain health. It makes sense, right? You have to give your brain the right building materials. Otherwise, it's like you're building a house with faulty bricks. Let's move on and see how this builds into our next section, proteins, the chemical messengers. If fats are the walls of the brain's house, proteins are the entire communications network running inside. Let's trace this chain reaction. Proteins and amino acids are the fundamental building block nutrients for growth and development, but they also have the power to actually manipulate how we feel and behave. Here's how it works. When you eat protein-rich food, your body breaks it down and extracts amino acids. Now, these amino acids contain the precursors to neurotransmitters, which are the chemical messengers that carry signals between your neurons. That final step, the actual release of these messengers, directly dictates things like your sleep, your attentiveness, and your weight. It's the exact reason why you might feel incredibly calm and, sleepy after eating a massive plate of pasta, or conversely, why you feel so sharp and alert after a protein-heavy meal. You are actively altering your brain chemistry with literally every single bite. These complex combinations of compounds in your food can literally stimulate your brain cells to release specific mood-altering messengers. We're talking about norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. These are the absolute heavy hitters that govern your motivation, your pleasure, and just your overall sense of well-being. But here is the catch. Getting to your brain cells is actually incredibly tricky. Amino acids have to actively compete for limited access to the brain. Think of your brain like a super exclusive high-end nightclub. These nutrients are all just waiting in line, fighting the bouncers to get inside. Because access is so limited, a diet with a wide, diverse range of foods is required. A varied diet helps maintain a perfectly balanced combination of these brain messengers, making sure your mood doesn't just get drastically skewed in one direction or the other. Think about it. If you only eat one type of nutrient, only one type of messenger gets into the club. Moving right along to the security system of our mental recipe. Section 3, micronutrients, the brain protectors. And what we're looking at here brilliantly illustrates this. Just like any highly engineered system, the brain needs a defense mechanism, right? A security system to keep everything running smoothly. Like the other organs in our bodies, our brains benefit massively from a steady supply of micronutrients. First up, we've got antioxidants, which you find in fruits and vegetables. These are your frontline soldiers. They strengthen the brain to fight off free radicals that actively try to destroy your brain cells. They are exactly what enable your brain to work well for a much longer period of time. Then, we have powerful vitamins like B6, B12, and folic acid. Without these, our brains would be highly susceptible to disease and mental decline. And finally, trace amounts of minerals. We're talking tiny amounts of iron, copper, zinc, and sodium. These are absolutely fundamental for maintaining brain health and supporting early cognitive development. Small amounts, but a huge impact. Let's shift gears now to see how the brain actually powers all this. Section 4. Carbs, the brain's fuel. So, in order for the brain to efficiently transform and synthesize all of those valuable fats, proteins, and micronutrients we just talked about, well, it needs energy. To put this into perspective, the human brain only makes up about 2% of our total body weight. 2%! It is a remarkably small package in the grand scheme of our anatomy. Yet, despite only weighing 2%, it uses up to 20% of our total energy resources. Just let that sink in for a second. 1/5 of all the energy your body produces is being totally hogged by this one single organ. And most of this intense energy demand is met by carbohydrates that our body digests into glucose, or what we know as blood sugar. Because the brain is such a massive energy hog, the frontal lobes, that's the area responsible for your high-level thinking, your planning, your focus, they are incredibly sensitive to any drops in glucose. In fact, a sudden change in mental function or a severe drop in attention is actually one of the primary glaring signals of nutrient deficiency. We've all been there. When you suddenly just can't focus on a task, your brain is literally flashing a low battery warning. Assuming we are actually getting glucose regularly, how does the specific type of carbohydrate we eat affect our brains? Well, carbs basically come in 3 forms: starch, sugar, and fiber. The ratio of these determines everything. A high glycemic food, like say white bread, causes this rapid release of glucose into the blood. You get a quick rush, but then comes the dreaded dip. Your blood sugar shoots down, and it takes your attention span and your mood right down with it. That is the classic post-lunch apathy right there. On the other hand, low glycemic carbs, like oats, grains, legumes, they have a much slower glucose release. This provides your brain with a steady, reliable level of fuel, and that results in sustained mental clarity and attentiveness all throughout the day. So, the crucial point is, how do we actually apply this mechanical engineering to our everyday lives? That brings us to our final section, sustaining your brain power. Everything we've covered today really boils down to this magnificent reality. For sustained brain power, opting for a varied diet of nutrient-rich foods isn't just a casual suggestion, it is absolutely critical. You are the architect of your own cognitive function. When it comes to what you bite, chew, and swallow, your choices have a direct, mechanical, and long-lasting effect on the most powerful organ in your body. You are literally building your mind meal by meal. It completely shifts how you look at a plate of food, doesn't it? It's not just about satisfying hunger anymore. So, I want to leave you with this one vital question to really ponder. The next time you sit down to eat, the next time you take a bite, I want you to ask yourself, are you just feeding your stomach, or are you strategically filling your mind?